everyone. Thank you so much for watching the Let's Talk show. Let's Talk show brings a lot of value by bringing the experts from the industry, the people, those who are doing a wonderful job into their own domain. Today we have our guest and the speaker here, MrDeep Bhandari. And a few things about Deep sir. He is very much passionate about transforming lives. Deep sir is currently working as a consultant and an executive coach, and he's helping the international organizations like Innovara and Everwise in terms of providing his consultation and the services. He's also into the editorial board of Medicine Man and also a faculty for eminent management colleges like Narsi Monji. And he comes from the school of the coaching from the neuro leadership coaching from the Neuro Leadership Institute. Another in one of the sir, the Let's Talk show, I was talking to Prabir Jha sir. He said that now the leaders are missing. Now we don't see that the leadership people, those who really help others to learn by the action. As you said that fortunately you are amongst the few people, those who are in touch with the pioneers. Right. So how do you see, sir, that to bring this kind of culture of leadership, what are the few practices would you like to recommend to the CXOs or the people, those who are sitting in the boardroom?
See, it's very difficult to pinpoint that, what really works in the organization, what kind of leadership work, because to my mind is that we often make this mistake of talking about the leadership styles. Right. To my mind is that leadership is always been very dynamic, and your ability to adopt your style to match with the situation that you are in. That's something which is more important. So leader need to be very flexible in changing the style based on the situation to situation, rather than focusing on a particular way of leadership that gives result. Now we talk about coaching per se. Coaching is a very important style of leadership, has a very positive impact on the climate, where the people and those things. But then prerequisite for coaching is that the people are willing to understand that what they are good at, where they need to get better, right? And that's where that possibly the coaching works. But then if there is a firefighting, month-end situation, right? You need to get the number. Possibly that you need to get into a little bit of authoritative or directive that this is what that. Why? Because that point of time, I don't think that you have many opportunity to really that coach, right? I'm not saying that there's no opportunity, but then something that works quick and fast might be that more specific directive, or there is a younger people, those may lack certain skills. So that as a leader, that how you really assess the situation and then transform your style to match the situation might give you a much better results, might give you a much better control, or able to facilitate the situation powerfully, then adopting a particular style. My favorite is always that a coaching is a wonderful way to really deal with the climate and the situation we are in today.
Yeah. Sir, how do you see the changes into the multinational functioning in India or the Indian organization, especially in the pharmaceutical space? And I should not name the organizations, but we know all these, the great multinationals having the process system in place, and where the Indian organizations give you the leeway of experimenting, implementing, and doing the things.
Okay. There are two ways of dealing with that. One is a long answer, where that you go into the history of the companies and then see that how over a period of time they have changed. Right, I'm talking about the multinationals versus Indian companies, or we look at the current context. I'll to keep the that our conversation more crisp, I will possibly try and that give you a very crisp answer. So multinationals, and especially those companies, those who are into innovation, right? They have the two core competencies. They have that innovation, the drug discovery, right, and marketing. Unfortunately, in India, the many multinationals try and adopt that local scenario, and they build their portfolio accordingly and things like that, and they miserably fail. They were successful for time. The environment was very different. They were very successful. Competition was very different. But the last 20 or so years that we have seen that every multinationals changing, restructuring themselves, hiving off their businesses, getting into co-promotion, understanding that they cannot win in that situation, and focusing purely on that the innovative products and those things, and that's what that giving them the success today. And if you look at that, any of the multinational, you'll observe that. So the major difference that the Indian company and the multinational, I would structure my answer into 3 or 4 ways. So look at the portfolio or portfolio strategy. Now, multinationals are more focused on the portfolio, which is innovative, where that they have a solid strategic intent that what they are going to do, and they remain focused on those areas and build brands, right? Now, so to say, right, there are counterpoints also there. On the other hand, that you have the Indian companies, those who more appeal towards that, what we call it, the basket approach. It doesn't matter that whether your one product compete with your own other product, but as long as the basket, because that they maximize the customer productivity, right? So they make an investment on the customer or customer relationship, so that they can get the best out of the customer relationship and things like that. And that's where that because of this product portfolio or the product basket approach, their geographical reach, that's another thing, is that so most of that Indian companies will have a huge geographical reach versus multinational. Multinationals are more targeted marketing. So they look at the segment, they look at the target market, they look at that very carefully, those elements, and then they plan. Third aspect is that sales force. Now, for a good multinational, I think the sales force is an asset. For majority of, if not all, majority of Indian companies, sales force decisions are not scientific. You just that based on the experience, you just take, and that's the reason they tend to have a very large sales force, because the is a share of voice market, feet on the ground gives you that, and that's been experience. So without giving much thought that how do we size, how do we structure the sales force, they just based on the experience, what the competitors are doing, and they put the people. Obviously, they don't pay much attention to the sales force. While for a multinational organization, sales force is an asset, right? Let me give you example that in one of my organization that we took a marketing and distribution responsibility of another US based biopharmaceutical company. And while we were moving, integrating with our sales force, or that two major function, we could not get any person, medical and marketing. And we are talking about a highly scientific product. And we all get that, everybody from the sales. The next 2 years, we not only grow the portfolio much better than the parent company, right? And really capture the market, both in terms of the customer satisfaction as well as only because of Salesforce. Why? Because the Salesforce was of excellent quality. You don't require that. I'm not saying that you don't require medical and you don't require, but then that our medical teams quickly learned, our marketing teams quickly learned, and they help. but it's primarily the sales force, those who manage the customer relationship and they manage the portfolio, entire portfolio. So we had a phenomenal growth. That's the difference that when we talk about the quality of sales force. Now, just to contextualize that, each of these guys that we are talking about, their salary bracket would be to match that of a zonal business manager of an Indian company. That's the difference we are talking about that, right?
Yeah.
So huge difference, but then huge difference in the competencies and the capability of these teams. So
Yeah.
these are 3 or 4 points that which are I don't think that we can say that multinationals are more successful or Indian companies are more successful. Datas are in that today that Indian companies are growing much faster than the multinational. The market share is shrinking. But I think that most of the multinationals are in transition, and they're already, I think that grouping themselves to do what they are really good at. So that's where that if they focus, possibly that they will gain much better. The other point is that the agility. Multinationals, by virtue of that, the way that they operate, they're very, very slow in decision making. Whether we like it or not, Indian companies are very agile, very fast, and very progressive. They have the state-of-the-art use of technology. How much they use, that's another thing, right? How much they, make sense of that, the data and that the technology available, that's because the capability gap is there. But they are very fast. So if they continue to build the capabilities, possibly that would really help them to consolidate their position.
Decreasing the air time in the chambers, changing into the expectation of the customer, looking into the post-COVID time where customers are restricted to meet so many people, increasing the kind of competition there. What do you think, sir? What is the big differentiator if for any company to become successful? Is it a people or it's which department is more, taking the front, the seat, especially in bringing the change and the output?
Yeah, understand. That's a very important question that the in-clinic, right. Unfortunately, what has happened over a period of time, and that's what, let me now go back to where I started. When I joined Sandoz 40 years back, right, there was no Visulate, right? You're supposed to discuss the product with the doctor. I still remember that we used to have one anxiolytic, and then you discuss the stress scale, and then you discuss that, which means that you don't require a aid to communicate with the doctor. Today, the rep doesn't have a visual aid or iPad, they cannot talk, right? And that's the biggest challenge that the doctors have. I remember that many years back, we are launching a low molecular weight heparin to a neurophysician. She was head of department and right, and then one rep was there, and he has very good rapport with the doctor. And then because I was there, then he thought that I must detail, right? So start detailing the product, the doctor, and doctor said that I had no time and things like that. So we start conversing with the doctor, just put that visual aid down. We had 22 minutes solid discussion. End of the day that she said that, and that I think that I still remember the Mayo Hospital, we have 2 patients today admitted. Talk to the, the hospital in charge, and they make the product available. I'm going to try on this. Now you understand that what is that? The moment you put that visual aid or show the visual aid, the doctor is not interested.
Yeah.
Why? Because you can't. But then if you have that, guts to talk, so visual aid or iPad are a solid aid only when you're showing something that makes sense to the communication. But then how it is being used today, and that's where that people are now trying to say that how you can make visual aid better or iPad better. Now I think that the crux lies is that how you can that make your people better, those who can communicate with the doctor without that any aid, and then use the aid appropriately wherever it is needed.
Yeah.
Right. That something is lacking. The other part is that the whole process is owned by marketing. Now, if you are a 160th brand of Vildagliptin, how do you look at the marketing? Right. So you need to get, you need to think about that how do I differentiate? What is my value proposition? How do I go beyond the product and look at that customer or look at the patient? Right. So how do I shift my focus from a product to possibly a patient, or how do I now my value proposition is beyond the pill? So I'm giving that a customer reason to engage with me when I'm talking about that. And whether that it is a face-to-face or using that omni-channel or digital, each touch point, how do I make sure my customer has the best experience with my brand or my company or with my rep? Each customer. So how much I know about the customer profile, likes, dislike, needs, what exactly that, how I'm looking at that remains the very, very important part. Unfortunately, those are the areas that we still, so when we talk about the customer experience in pharma, I don't think that any of the marketeer really that is burning the midnight oil to really see that how that every touch point is a unique or memorable experience uh, with each of my customers. Now I am going through a research that which is I think the very unique research about the customer experience, where this is a massive amount of, I think that roughly about 22,000 interaction with the pharmaceutical company that they talk about, and about 2,000 doctors, and very different kind of things. So they asked that doctor that tell me, based on your last few interaction with the pharmaceutical company, what do you do after the rep has left, right? And then majority of doctors, those who have a bad customer experience, is do nothing, right? The difference is a good customer experience. They say that 63% of the doctors said that I save the material, I share the material with my peers, I get in touch with the company or the rep to ask more specific material. That's a differentiator, very clear differentiator, that do nothing versus that's a clear sign of engagement, right? Yeah. As good customer experience brings engagement. I can give you that during COVID time that what those doctors, those who are not meeting pharma companies, they reach out to the company in those cases where the companies are able to add value or bring a better customer experience. Right. So that's what, and we all heard about stories that how the pharma entries everywhere were restricted or denied and things like that. Yeah.
Wonderful, sir. There is nothing substitute to the knowledge. Finally, these all remain as an aid only. Visual aid, or maybe iPad or leaflet, or maybe, you know, any reference what you offer to the customer. Most importantly, this is a knowledge industry. Are you really able to influence the decision making by by sharing the right real knowledge with the customer? Why your molecule? Why your case study is important? Why your brand? So do we have an answer of all these why? Possibly, you know, you will be in the position and the situation to create a difference. So so much of learning happens on this show. Now my another, so then the second last question. The linchpin in an industry, especially in pharmaceutical or any industry, is the frontline managers. Those have a power to influence their team. How do you see, sir, the role of a frontline manager? Because in UCB also, you know, I saw you were focusing more about, you know, influencing and capability building, competency building of a frontline managers.
I think you hit the nail, because that's a very important part. That's a hugely important part, and I think that fundamentally that the many companies are making a mistake of not really paying attention to who they promote as a first line manager. Right, and that's something that the major part of this, you know, the issues. Now imagine that you have a very successful star rep who's very good at it, right? He's very ambitious, or she's very ambitious, right? And then performing very well. So very obvious question is that if you don't promote, this guy will, or this person will leave. Right, so the best thing is that to buy peace is that promote, and that's where the entire thing goes wrong. Now, why that people will ask? Because selling is important. He's successful in the role is the stepping stone for you know, being a manager. That's another very bad assumption, right? Because, you know, being an individual contributor and a line manager require very different work values. As a rep, your job is to really sell and then achieve or exceed target in your given territory by ensuring that implementation of strategies, customer relationship, and blah, blah, blah things, right? The job of a manager is absolutely different. You do nothing of these. Actually, that what you do is that you manage those targets with and through people. So you need to work with people. You need to understand. So your work values have changed. The value of your work is very different than value of work that earlier. Because your value of work has shifted, your skills requirement or your competency requirements are very different. So how you can promote a star rep without looking at that, whether this person has those competencies, or these competencies can be developed or not. So that's the first, you know, that what we say, that mistake or that development error that many companies that do. And it's not that they do not know, but as we said that earlier, that organization development conversation, that they don't want to pay attention. They want a quick fix solution. I don't want this guy to leave, so I'm just fixing that up. That fixture may, you know, destroy the entire team. That's another thing, right? Because that's somebody else's responsibility, not mine. Right. So that's something that how do we promote people? And the good company that they start early. What they start looking at that how to find and develop leader while they are itself in their role. So you're a star rep, and then you have been that selected, and then you've been, you know, going through the rigor of things, where that your position doesn't change, but your responsibilities are added. So you get exposure. When you get exposure, you understand that whether you can do that, or you say that this is not my cup of tea, because I find it extremely difficult to deal with people.